Hi, Kendra. It's good to have you back in today. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing all right.
Um, you're doing all right?
Yeah.
What can we talk about today?
Well, specifically, I want to talk about my mom.
Okay.
And even more specifically, like her relationship with her grandchildren, like my children, my nieces and nephews. My mom, like, I hesitate to talk about it, but I know this is a safe place, so.
It is. I can tell you're kind of feeling some reservations, maybe, and so I'll just reiterate that it's completely safe space, and whatever is said here does stay here, and it will not leave this room. So I want you to feel free to talk about whatever you'd like.
Okay. My mom loves her family a lot. Like, her family has always been top priority. If she worked, it's always just been like a part-time job because she wants to be available to her kids and her grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
They matter a lot to her. But as I've gotten older and raised my own kids, I've seen some things about like the way she interacts with my children and now these other grandchildren of hers that really concern me.
Okay, so it sounds like growing up you had a really good relationship with her as far as her availability, and you then and now are able to recognize her presence and her availability to you, and you appreciate that. But maybe now as a grandmother, you have a bit of a different perspective of what's going on.
Yeah, and I think it has to do with the fact that I'm a parent, and so, I've thought about the way I feel children should be treated and the way children should be raised, and so I see sometimes some things she does remind me of things she did when I was a child, but I didn't know any different.
Right.
And so just kind of seeing it from a different perspective now.
Okay, so yeah, being a mother yourself has given you this brand new perspective that wasn't there before because you weren't a mom. Can you tell me more about what it is that you're seeing as far as her interactions with them go that you maybe have some issues with?
Yeah, I think like what it boils down to is anger, and like that's her frustration comes out as anger.
Okay.
And she sort of uses anger to control.
Okay.
And so, like, as a little girl, back then I wouldn't have said I'm afraid of my mom, but I look back now and think I wasn't going to cross her.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to do what Mom said, because if I didn't, she'd be really mad and really angry.
Mm-hmm. And so now you're seeing her use this anger with your children and maybe your nieces and nephews too.
Mm-hmm.
What is that like to see?
I don't often witness it firsthand. My children are a little bit older now, and so when they were younger, they spent more time with her. But we also have like my husband's parents nearby, and they're really involved grandparents too. And I noticed with my kids, like, they'd rather go to my husband's parents' house than my parents' house. Like, they didn't want to go, they call her Mimi, they didn't want to go to Mimi's house.
Mm-hmm.
And just I think about a year and a half ago, I started hearing some stories of things that had happened, like while I was out of town and she was keeping them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my son remembers a time where she got really mad and pulled his hair. My daughter remembers a time when she had gotten all the kids ready for church and they were waiting out in front of the house, and her little cousin had gotten her shoes dirty. So she was trying to help and went and got the hose and was spraying off her feet, but ended up getting her all wet. And my mom came out and was just yelling at her, like, just losing it. I thought I could trust you! And she's like 7.
Right. Can I ask how old your children are now?
My youngest now is 9, and then I have a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 17-year-old.
Okay.
But they're a lot older than my siblings' children.
Okay.
And there are 6 of them. I have 3 siblings, 6 nieces and nephews, and the oldest is only 5 right now. So they're a lot younger.
Mm-hmm. And what is your children's relationship with their grandmother like? How would you generally describe it?
It's kind of reserved. I sense that they're a little cautious about being around her. They're not really eager to be around her. I know she loves them a lot, and I also know like they're old enough now that they're not going to do like immature, childish things anymore that are going to make her angry like that.
Right.
So I feel a little safer as far as my children being around her now. But it's not like a warm, fuzzy relationship on my children's side or hers either. And she senses that too. She's like, yeah, your kids don't really like me.
So you say that you do know that your kids are maybe old enough to a point where they're safe enough with your mom that, they're not going to anger her too much. But what is it like for you as your mom to hear their stories or the recountings of incidences in the past?
It's really upsetting. And I'm the kind of person who can kind of like let the past be the past and move on. And so if I thought that, there were no future consequences possible, like she couldn't do that again, I probably wouldn't say anything. But I worry about the way she's treating my nieces and nephews now. And my sister told me a story recently that just brought it up again.
Mm-hmm. So it's upsetting to hear your children's recountings of incidences with your mom because you know that your mom is around your nieces and nephews at maybe a more vulnerable age than being at a more vulnerable age.
Yeah. My sister and my mom took, I guess, 6 of them, all of them, to the park recently. And my sister said my mom got really mad at my niece, who's 5. She was chasing her cousin, who's a year younger, chasing her on the playground, and she was pulling on his shirt. And she said my mom just got really angry and lost it. My mom chased her down and yelled at her really bad. And then she saw Penelope's, the little girl, saw Penelope's whole demeanor change, and she just shut off. And it broke my sister's heart. And I asked her, I said, did you say anything to Mom? And she said, no, I'm afraid of Mom.
So it's kind of this fear and the anger, it's starting to come up in many different places. You can see it with your children. You said you've been able to reflect and see it within yourself, that maybe it was fear that kind of kept you in place when you were younger, and you can see it with your nieces and nephews, and now your sister is saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. How would you describe your relationship with your mother today?
I feel like we have a pretty good relationship. I feel like, and we can talk about a lot of things, and she and I are really different. We've always been really different. Like, even as a little girl, I never really identified with my mom that much.
In what way are you all different?
I always, love to read and really think about things, and just, I don't know, I was more of an introverted child, and, bookish, and liked school, and she's just, she's probably more, stereotypical female mom, you know.
Mm-hmm.
She's, more lighthearted and likes to go shopping, and we just have different interests, I guess. But I've never really felt very understood by her, but I've always felt loved by her.
Mm-hmm. So it's good you do feel loved by her, and you see and recognize the love she has for her grandchildren. What would you like for her relationship with her grandchildren to be? Maybe even more specifically, your children.
Yeah.
What would an ideal relationship be like?
I mean, I feel like with my children, if she could come to an understanding of how damaging that anger was to the relationship and somehow make amends or apologize for it, that would be the ideal, that relationship could be restored as much as possible.
Have you ever spoken to your mom about this specifically, or told her, I was talking to the kids the other day and they mentioned this?
Yeah, I haven't. I've never brought it up.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is?
I think that I don't believe she'll respond well to it. She's pretty stubborn, and she's not very emotionally mature. I mean, clearly, if she's getting angry and screaming at children and pulling their hair, that's not much emotional maturity. So I'm afraid that, like, talking to her about it could do more damage, like make her just close off, or make her angry at me. So I just have a lot of fear about how she'll react.
Okay. What do you think? I feel like maybe what's keeping you from being honest with her about how you're feeling is that you fear the outcome. What do you think is the worst possible outcome of the situation? Would it be, what would that look like, do you think?
So where my mind runs to is she denies it all or justifies it all, and tries to talk to my siblings about it. And worst case scenario would be like they don't support what I'm saying,
Okay.
I don't think that would happen. I think they would be honest enough to be like, yeah, Mom, I've seen that too. But I could see her, just growing cold and kind of just fine. I won't babysit your kids anymore.
So you do say that maybe even in the worst case scenario where you are the only child to tell your mom this, you do think your siblings would support it and maybe not deny what you're saying is to be true. So that's comforting.
Yeah.
So would you say if that were to happen, where your mom decided to just pull back and just kind of go cold, do you think that maybe that might just be her initial reaction, and in time she might, even if she doesn't want to believe what you're saying to be true, maybe in time she would just start to let it go and maybe come back, re-enter your lives?
I don't know. She can hold a grudge. She's that type. I'll see people around town. She'll be like, I don't like her because of something she did 20 years ago.
Right.
I would think that she wouldn't hold a grudge against her own family just because family is such an important thing to her. Yeah.
Okay. So what would you like to be done? You would like the relationship to be better. Do you have any ideas of facilitating a better relationship without ever addressing what you feel the issue is?
I don't think that we can have a better relationship unless I talk to her about it.
Mm-hmm.
It'll just kind of continue like it is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe feel worse at times when another incident pops up and I think, ugh.
Right. Because do you think maybe at this point you are feeling bad because you haven't done as much as you think you could be doing to better the situation, as far as letting her be aware of it, or...
Yeah, I do think I feel a burden for that.
Mm-hmm. So you have some guilt.
Mm-hmm. Because I do think most of the time it's best just to confront things.
Mm-hmm. So do you think there is any way that you could talk to your mom about how you are feeling? Maybe you could start off by just reflecting to her just start with your personal relationship with her maybe, and see how she takes that, and how you said earlier that you noticed that when you were younger you could see the anger and the fear there. Maybe that would be a good starting point to try to relay this message to her.
Yeah, maybe so. She's told me too, I remember she would be at my house when my children were young and someone would do something they shouldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
And she would say to me oh, if you guys did that when you were little, I would just get really mad. And I remember I think I even told her, I was like, oh yeah, Mom, that doesn't really work with her, she'll just close off, I need to talk to her about it, but I'm not going to get mad at her.
Mm-hmm. How does your mom react in those situations where she says what she would do if that were her, and how you say your approach differs? How does she usually respond?
She can just kind of get kind of quiet and close off a little,
mm-hmm.
just kind of,
She just kind of shrugs you off.
Yeah, kind of sours the mood.
Mm-hmm.
But, we have had some harder talks over the years where I feel more heard by her. Maybe I know how to communicate better than I used to.
Okay. So it sounds like you two naturally have had some issues in the past that, can you recount any times where you really felt strongly about something and disagreed with her, or confronted her with some kind of truth, or the truth of your feelings or her behavior, and it turned out well? Or...
I can recount some kind of hard conversations, but I can't think of a time when I've confronted her.
Mm-hmm.
My brother has.
Okay.
And,
Tell me about that.
yeah, so she and my dad's relationship has struggled a lot ever since, always really, but especially ever since the youngest one moved out. And they have empty nest, and she didn't have her Luna and her little babies to focus on anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's just two of them now. And she was talking to my brother about their relationship and how she gets frustrated with him, and she's like, yeah, so I'm just really mean to him. And my brother was like, Mom, you can't be mean to Dad. And there were more words exchanged. I don't know what the whole conversation was, but it ended badly. They hung up on each other, but then it did get through to her.
Mm-hmm.
And at least for a little while, her attitude towards my father changed some.
Mm-hmm. And so what is her relationship like with your brother today?
I know she loves him a lot, and I know he loves her too. I think their relationship has always had a different, like, had a tension, but not the same as mine and hers. Because he's more like alpha male dominant type. Like, he was willing to just confront her like that, no problem.
Right.
Um, and so it's a little more like a car wreck or something when they butt heads, you know. But I know she has a lot of like respect for him, the man he is, and his family, and.
Mm-hmm. And can you appreciate what that confrontation brought to their relationship as a mother and son, and what it did for your mother and your father? You said that it did eventually get to her, the point, get to her. So you do recognize that confrontation, maybe initially is uncomfortable, but it can bring about change in a positive way.
Yeah. I do see that.
Okay. And so I'm just wondering what we can do to relieve you of some negative feelings that you're having. You said you're feeling maybe guilty, maybe that you're not doing enough to relieve the situation. Can you think of anything that would make you feel more at peace about your relationship with your mom or her relationship with her grandchildren?
I mean, I know that somehow I need to talk to her about these things.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to. I just don't want to. And I'm not sure that it will lead to more peace, but it will at least be the relief of knowing, like, okay, I did the right thing. I did what I could do.
Even if you were to kind of, you don't have to confront her, but maybe just be more honest with her about how you're feeling and your perspective. Even if she were not to change, do you think that would make you feel better, just knowing that you did tell her how you were feeling and did show her some honesty?
Maybe that's part of my fear, is that if it doesn't change anything, it almost feels wasted. Like, I went through this really hard conversation and nothing came of it, and I could have just stayed quiet. And I mean, it almost makes it harder. Just like right now, there's the chance that she could change. And if I have a conversation and she refuses to change, then it feels more hopeless, maybe.
Right. You fear the disappointment, maybe?
Yeah.
Of nothing changing?
Yeah.
I can definitely understand that. That's a tough spot, because if you were to confront her and she were to just either not believe you or acknowledge what you're saying but still show no real effort, well, that would probably be hurtful for you. But even so, do you think that maybe if you were to be more honest with her and nothing were to change, that you could see that as an opportunity for strength and growth personally for yourself to have been honest with your mom?
Yeah. I mean, it would be a hard thing for me to do, so it would take strength. I've never been good with confrontation. I've learned to be a little better about it, because I've just seen it's necessary. Otherwise, it just sits in the middle of the relationship.
Right.
If you don't confront it.
Because it does sound like your relationship currently, and although I can tell you love your mother and your mother loves you and you know that, and that's great. It seems that currently your relationship operates around this fear and this anger and this walking on eggshells. And although it seems more maybe natural to you right now because it's all you've known, maybe really going up against it and pushing back might lead to a more authentic and a happier relationship between the two of you. And right now it's just unknown because you haven't really confronted it.
And I can't control how she'll respond.
Exactly.
Yeah. Another thing that I learned recently as well was my sister, we were going to dinner, our husbands and us, and she made this comment. She said, sometimes I wonder who I would be if Mom hadn't been so critical of me when I was a little girl.
Okay.
And it just broke my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a part of me too that's just afraid of like what I'm opening by going into that.
Right. I could definitely see how that must be very hard to hear your sister say. Do you feel that way for yourself at all?
I think I don't feel it so much. My mom wasn't critical of me growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because we were so different, she was just like, okay, like Kendra makes good grades and does what she's supposed to do, all right. And my sister, her name's Emily, my sister and my mom are more alike. And I think my mom tried to control her more. I don't think, like, she gave up on trying to control me early on. I was independent and...
Right. You needed less wrangling.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, although you maybe don't relate to what your sister said in the same way that she feels that, you can recognize that if you were to start digging at this, it has the potential and probability to release a lot of deeper, painful things, not just for you, but for all your siblings and her grandchildren, your nieces and nephews. So that must be very scary.
Yeah.
And I can definitely understand why you would be hesitant to open Pandora's box.
Yeah. I've thought about just talking to my brother about it, the one who did confront her.
Mm-hmm.
I know she wouldn't respond well to like an intervention where we all sit her down. Like that would be terrible. But he may have some thoughts about it too.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great idea and a great place to start because, you don't have to start with a confrontation with your mom. Maybe just see your brother's perspective and ask him, how did you get the courage to do that, or how do you feel about doing it and the outcome? Maybe that would be a good start.
Yeah, maybe so.
Would you feel comfortable talking to your brother about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, seems like you'd be open to it.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
that would be good. And so, in our session today, we really went over kind of this uneasiness that you feel towards your mother and maybe some fears that you have. Do you feel that there is any possibility of some relief at all?
yeah, I think it would be good to talk to my brother and just get his perspective on it. It was his daughter that my mom yelled at the park recently, and I don't know if he knows that or not.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I want to be gossipy about my mom with him,
right.
but she keeps them every Sunday. He and his wife lead worship, and she takes care of the children because they are doing 3 or 4 services. They have to get up there really early. So I don't know what he's observed in his own kids from their time with my mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just talking to him and not just him, but maybe your other siblings, see what they have to say. I'm not sure what if you have already spoken to them about this issue in particular, but maybe starting there and getting some support just in your own mind and some emotional backup will be a good place to start.
Yeah.